Life was good for Daniela until her phone was stolen and it had no password. The thief had easy access to all her messages, emails, photos, social media accounts, and banking apps. Don't be like Daniela. Create a strong password known only by you to add an extra layer of security to your phone. This will keep your information and digital world safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her phone was stolen and it had no password. The thief had easy access to all her messages, emails, photos, social media accounts, and banking apps. Don't be like Daniela. Create a strong password known only by you to add an extra layer of security to your phone. This will keep your information and digital world safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela. Life was good for Mary until she received a phone call from a lady asking her to share her mobile money PIN to ensure that her SIM card wasn't deactivated. Her mobile money PIN ended up in the wrong hands. Don't be like Mary. Never share your PIN or password with anyone. A bank or mobile money company will never ask you for your PIN or password. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Michael until someone went phishing in the email connected to his bank account. A hacker masquerading as his bank tricked him into opening a malicious link that prompted him to share all his bank details. In less than an hour, his account balance was zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Don't be like Michael. Avoid phishing attacks by verifying the source of your emails and make sure any links you click are from a secure website. This will keep your money and personal details safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Tendo until his love for online shopping got him in trouble. A scammer set up a fake online store selling designer shoes at chips and chicken prices. Tendo fell for it with a smile and ordered 20 pairs. The website mysteriously crashed after he'd paid. Don't be like Tendo. When making online payments, make sure the website is legitimate by Googling user reviews, check that the spelling of the website is correct, and use a secure payment service. This will keep your peace of mind and online shopping experience safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Donald until he forgot to log out of his Facebook on a public computer. The next day, he had over 100 messages in his inbox asking how much he needed for his operation. Huh? Someone had used his account to ask for money from all his friends. Don't be like Donald. Always log out of your social media to keep your information and friends safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her ex leaked her photos. Now the World Wide Web, the WWW, looks at her in a different way. Don't be like Daniela. Think before you share to keep your information and private photos safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Lydia until her best friend stole her ATM card. Lydia's card's CVV code was exposed. Sadly, she remained with 000 on her bank account. Don't be like Lydia. Hide your card's CVV number and activate two-factor authentication for your online payments so your transactions are authenticated by SMS or email. This will keep your information and money safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her phone was stolen and it had no password. The thief had easy access to all her messages, emails, photos, social media accounts, and banking apps. Don't be like Daniela. Create a strong password known only by you to add an extra layer of security to your phone. This will keep your information and digital world safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Mary until she received a phone call from a lady asking her to share her mobile money PIN to ensure that her SIM card wasn't deactivated. Her mobile money PIN ended up in the wrong hands. Don't be like Mary. Never share your PIN or password with anyone. A bank or mobile money company will never ask you for your PIN or password. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Michael until someone went phishing in the email connected to his bank account. A hacker masquerading as his bank tricked him into opening a malicious link that prompted him to share all his bank details. In less than an hour, his account balance was zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Don't be like Michael. Avoid phishing attacks by verifying the source of your emails and make sure any links you click are from a secure website. This will keep your money and personal details safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Tendo until his love for online shopping got him in trouble. A scammer set up a fake online store selling designer shoes at chips and chicken prices. Tendo fell for it with a smile and ordered 20 pairs. The website mysteriously crashed after he'd paid. Don't be like Tendo. When making online payments, make sure the website is legitimate by Googling user reviews, check that the spelling of the website is correct, and use a secure payment service. This will keep your peace of mind and online shopping experience safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Donald until he forgot to log out of his Facebook on a public computer. The next day, he had over 100 messages in his inbox asking how much he needed for his operation. Someone had used his account to ask for money from all his friends. Don't be like Donald. Always log out of your social media to keep your information and friends safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her ex leaked her photos. Now the World Wide Web, the WWW, looks at her in a different way. Don't be like Daniela. Think before you share to keep your information and private photos safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Lydia until her best friend stole her ATM card. Lydia's card's CVV code was exposed. Sadly, she remained with 000 on her bank account. Don't be like Lydia. Hide your card's CVV number and activate two-factor authentication for your online payments so your transactions are authenticated by SMS or email. This will keep your information and money safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her phone was stolen and it had no password. The thief had easy access to all her messages, emails, photos, social media accounts, and banking apps. Don't be like Daniela. Create a strong password known only by you to add an extra layer of security to your phone. This will keep your information and digital world safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Mary until she received a phone call from a lady asking her to share her mobile money PIN to ensure that her SIM card wasn't deactivated. Her mobile money PIN ended up in the wrong hands. Don't be like Mary. Never share your PIN or password with anyone. A bank or mobile money company will never ask you for your PIN or password. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Michael until someone went phishing in the email connected to his bank account. A hacker masquerading as his bank tricked him into opening a malicious link that prompted him to share all his bank details. In less than an hour, his account balance was zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Don't be like Michael. Avoid phishing attacks by verifying the source of your emails and make sure any links you click are from a secure website. This will keep your money and personal details safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Tendo until his love for online shopping got him in trouble. A scammer set up a fake online store selling designer shoes at chips and chicken prices. Tendo fell for it with a smile and ordered 20 pairs. The website mysteriously crashed after he'd paid. Don't be like Tendo. When making online payments, make sure the website is legitimate by Googling user reviews, check that the spelling of the website is correct, and use a secure payment service. This will keep your peace of mind and online shopping experience safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Donald until he forgot to log out of his Facebook on a public computer. The next day, he had over 100 messages in his inbox asking how much he needed for his operation. Someone had used his account to ask for money from all his friends. Don't be like Donald. Always log out of your social media to keep your information and friends safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her ex leaked her photos. Now the World Wide Web, the WWW, looks at her in a different way. Don't be like Daniela. Think before you share to keep your information and private photos safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Lydia until her best friend stole her ATM card. Lydia's card's CVV code was exposed. Sadly, she remained with 000 on her bank account. Don't be like Lydia. Hide your card's CVV number and activate two-factor authentication for your online payments so your transactions are authenticated by SMS or email. This will keep your information and money safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Want to become the kafulu of cybersecurity? You've come to the right place. Join us for the Cybersecurity Awareness e-conference on November 4th, 2021 and learn from the experts. Want to become the kafulu of cybersecurity? You've come to the right place. Join us for the Cybersecurity Awareness e-conference on November 4th, 2021 and learn from the experts. Want to become the kafulu of cybersecurity? You've come to the right place. Join us for the Cybersecurity Awareness e-conference on November 4th, 2021 and learn from the experts. Want to become the kafulu of cybersecurity? You've come to the right place. Join us for the Cybersecurity Awareness e-conference on November 4th, 2021 and learn from the experts. Emails, photos, social media accounts, and banking apps. Don't be like Daniela. Create a strong password known only by you to add an extra layer of security to your phone. This will keep your information and digital world safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority. This will keep your money and personal details safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Tendo until his love for online shopping got him in trouble. A scammer set up a fake online store selling designer shoes at chips and chicken prices. Tendo fell for it with a smile and ordered 20 pairs. The website mysteriously crashed after he'd paid. Don't be like Tendo. When making online payments, make sure the website is legitimate by Googling user reviews, check that the spelling of the website is correct, and use a secure payment service. This will keep your peace of mind and online shopping experience safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Donald until he forgot to log out of his Facebook on a public computer. The next day, he had over 100 messages in his inbox asking how much he needed for his operation. Huh? Someone had used his account to ask for money from all his friends. Don't be like Donald. Always log out of your social media to keep your information and friends safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her ex leaked her photos. Now the World Wide Web, the WWW, looks at her in a different way. Don't be like Daniela. Think before you share to keep your information and private photos safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Want to become the kafulu of cybersecurity? You've come to the right place. Join us for the Cybersecurity Awareness e-conference on November 4th, 2021 and learn from the experts. Life was good for Daniela until her phone was stolen and it had no password. The thief had easy access to all her messages, emails, photos, social media accounts, and banking apps. Don't be like Daniela. Create a strong password known only by you to add an extra layer of security to your phone. This will keep your information and digital world safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Mary until she received a phone call from a lady asking her to share her mobile money PIN to ensure that her SIM card wasn't deactivated. Her mobile money wrong hands. Don't be like Mary. Never share your PIN or password with anyone. A bank or mobile money company will never ask you for your PIN or password. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Michael until someone went phishing in the email connected to his bank account. A hacker masquerading as his bank tricked him into opening a malicious link that prompted him to share all his bank details. In less than an hour, his account balance was zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Don't be like Michael. Avoid phishing attacks by verifying the source of your emails and make sure any links you click are from a secure website. This will keep your money and personal details safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Tendo until his love for online shopping got him in trouble. A scammer set up a fake online store selling designer shoes at chips and chicken prices. Tendo fell for it with a smile and ordered 20 pairs. The website mysteriously crashed after he'd paid. Don't be like Tendo. When making online or the website is legitimate by Googling user reviews, check that the spelling of the website is correct and use a secure payment service. This will keep your peace of mind and online shopping experience safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Donald until he forgot to log out of his Facebook on a public computer. The next day, he had over 100 messages in his inbox asking how much he needed for his operation. Huh? Someone had used his account to ask for money from all his friends. Don't be like Donald. Always log out of your social media to keep your information and friends safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her ex leaked her photos. Now the World Wide Web, the WW. Don't be like Daniela. Think before you share to keep your information and private photos safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Lydia until her best friend stole her ATM card. Lydia's card's CVV code was exposed. Sadly, she remained with 000 on her bank account. Don't be like Lydia. Hide your card's CVV number and activate two-factor authentication for your online payments so your transactions are authenticated by SMS or email. This will keep your information and money safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Lydia until her best friend stole her ATM card. Lydia's card's CVV code was exposed. Sadly, she remained with 000 on her bank account. Don't be like Lydia. Hide your card's CVV number and activate two-factor authentication for your online payments so your transactions are authenticated by SMS or email. This will keep your information and money safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Want to become the kafulu of cybersecurity? You've come to the right place. Join us for the Cybersecurity Awareness e-conference on November 4th, 2021 and learn from the experts. Life was good for Daniela until her phone was stolen and it had no password. The thief had easy access to all her messages, emails, photos, social media accounts, and banking apps. Don't be like Daniela. Create a strong password known only by you to add an extra layer of security to your phone. This will keep your information and digital world safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Mary until she received a phone call from a lady asking her to share her mobile money PIN to ensure that her SIM card wasn't deactivated. Her mobile money PIN ended up in the wrong hands. Don't be like Mary. Never share your PIN or password with anyone. A bank or mobile money company will never ask you for your PIN or password. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Michael until someone went phishing in the email connected to his bank account. A hacker masquerading as his bank tricked him into opening a malicious link that prompted him to share all his bank details. In less than an hour, his account balance was zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Don't be like Michael. Avoid phishing attacks by verifying the source of your emails and make sure any links you click are from a secure website. This will keep your money and personal details safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Tendo until his love for online shopping got him in trouble. A scammer set up a fake online store selling designer shoes at chips and chicken prices. Tendo fell for it with a smile and ordered 20 pairs. The website mysteriously crashed after he'd paid. Don't be like Tendo. When making online payments, make sure the website is legitimate by Googling user reviews, check that the spelling of the website is correct, and use a secure payment service. This will keep your peace of mind and online shopping experience safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Donald until he forgot to log out of his Facebook on a public computer. The next day, he had over 100 messages in his inbox asking how much he needed for his operation. Someone had used his account to ask for money from all his friends. Don't be like Donald. Always log out of your social media to keep your information and friends safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Daniela until her ex leaked her photos. Now the World Wide Web, the WWW, looks at her in a different way. Don't be like Daniela. Think before you share to keep your information and private photos safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Lydia until her best friend stole her ATM card. Lydia's card's CVV code was exposed. Sadly, she remained with 000 on her bank account. Don't be like Lydia. Hide your card's CVV number and activate two-factor authentication for your online payments so your transactions are authenticated by SMS or email. This will keep your information and money safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda.
Hello. Good morning. We are going to start right now. So I want to welcome everyone, those here with us in-house and those online. Please feel as comfortable as you are wherever you are, at home, office, and be ready to participate and learn as we start our first ever National Cybersecurity Awareness Conference. We started this campaign in August this year, and all under the direction of promoting cybersecurity awareness. Because where we are today, obviously, ICT is becoming a very strong enabler for every business process. But we also know even small, medium enterprises are also fast adopting the use of technology and the internet, especially driven by, over the last 2 years, we've had the COVID pandemic forcing everyone to get online. In a certain paper that was published, asking CEOs and boards, what was their biggest activator for digital services? Was it their strategy? Was it competition? And the topmost answer was COVID-19 pandemic. The acceleration was so fast. And whereas everyone uses or intends to use ICT and the internet for good, we do have pockets of society that are hell-bent on the other side of using ICT for bad. And the biggest way is improving awareness on the tactics, on the channels that are used by cyber criminals, so that we are aware, even in our homes, children are online on the internet, schools are online, shopping is online, business is online, even church is online, and all this creates very good grounds for cyber criminals to operate. Cybersecurity, on the other side, comes in to mitigate those negative effects from happening. When criminals hit, it's a very ugly feeling. It's a very unpleasant place to be. If it's for a company, they could face a lot in terms of their reputation when they are hacked into or they lose their data. If it's a breach, and that breach involves personal data, that becomes much worse because you have to deal with the aftermath of a data breach where personal data is involved, with the anger of customers, the stakeholders, but most also now you deal with also a regulator. In Uganda, we have the Personal Data Protection Office that regulates the space of personal data. There's also a lot of money spent on PR, media, trying to clean up an image to recover from such. Then there's also the challenges themselves spent in rectifying what went wrong. For a small and medium enterprise, it could mean as simple as wiping out an entire portfolio on your balance sheet, or taking you steps back if you're using digital for communicating. If it's an individual, at NITA Uganda, we do have the Computer Emergency Response Team, which aids when incidents happen and gives support to those that are affected. Over the last 5 months, we've had interesting cases. coming in from individuals, creatives, who are facing the wrath of the internet. Something as simple as ransomware, taking away someone's livelihood, just because all their information that they use for video and graphics was all encrypted, and their work was gone just within a blink of an eye, unrecoverable. We've also seen stories online of creatives or even influencers who have built quite a heavy following, only for their credentials to be hijacked and that source of livelihood affected. And you see these people reacting with a lot of anger, a lot of anger on what is happening. And this is not stopping, this is on the increase. The effect is ugly, but then again, all of us have a role to play in cybersecurity. We all say and all know that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. You and I have a role to play, and this particular campaign is focusing not on technology, because technology is not the problem. It's focusing on us ourselves, our human mind, to increase the alertness that we have and the awareness around what we can do to improve and safeguard the information that we use on a daily basis, on our smartphones, on the apps that we use, on the transactions that we do. We do have a rich program today with different insights that affect all of us today that we'll be going through as we go through the program. So I encourage those who are online to post your questions, post your comments, use the hashtag we are running on Twitter, and we'll be able to pick it up and respond to you real time. So without further ado, I hereby have the honor of inviting the Director, Information Security at the National IT Authority Uganda to come and give the opening address for today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Arnold Mangeni.
Very good morning, everyone. Conference participants, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the first Cybersecurity Awareness Conference under the theme of Do Your Part. It's an honor for me to be here with you to discuss a topic that is very key and pertinent to all of us, and that is a matter to do with cybersecurity, which is one of the ways that we ensure that as we use technology, we are harnessing the positives and being mindful and cautious of what can go wrong and avoiding those murky waters. Benjamin Disraeli, one of the former prime ministers of the UK, said the worst strategy is to jump a chasm in 2 steps. Now that has been modified by very many, but it still stays relevant, whether you use whatever, but it is a very wrong strategy. And with hindsight, we recognize that it's one of the mistakes that we've made as we've embraced or pushed the use of technology. We have thrown a bit of caution away by focusing more on the functionality or the positives that we can harness out of it and forgetting the negatives. We've seen an acceleration in use of technology, and this has been magnified by the global pandemic, which has caused a couple of restrictions which have made us change the way we do things, including education, including trade and commerce. So majority of things have gone online. Parents have thrown a lot of technology at children, and it's very important for us to make sure that they are safe. I always like to use an analogy of any parent that likes their child. Even if your child is interested in rafting, it's very difficult for you to buy for them a raft or whatever gear and then just point downstream and tell them that is where the river is or the water body. It's difficult because you know that there are a lot of dangers. There could be crocodiles, there could be fast waters, so you need to give them as much guidance as possible while you are enabling them to do something that they are passionate about. We should be doing the same for technology. We know it has a lot of positives, but again, we have adversaries that are mindless of the fact that one, the user on the other end is a child, the user on the other end is innocent, the user on the other end is very trusting. So they take advantage of the fact that you trust a lot to be able to perpetrate some crimes against you. Some of them are financial in nature. People lose a lot of financial resources because of those adversaries. And some of them, of course, it's a behavior. It affects their character through activities such as grooming for the wrong reason, which affects the behavior of children. And in some cases, we've seen some suicides because of activities online, which include cyberbullying, amongst others. So we've had a number of transformations in service delivery as government, which is very good because it enables us to connect with our users of government services in the convenience of their houses or rooms or offices, which is a positive. And it's one of the things that we pride about as we drive our e-government strategy to ensure that we increase or improve the number of services the government provides online. We have to be mindful of the fact that, yep, there are people or elements out there that want to disrupt the party. They want to cause as much havoc to make it difficult for people to use technology for only the good. So there are risks, and one of the campaigns that we are undertaking as part of the National Cybersecurity Strategy is promoting awareness, and it is the only bridge between those that are unaware of the risks and then the exposure, as well as the tools that they can use to better protect themselves as they're using technology. So the campaign is running under Be Safe Online, but the conference's theme is Do Your Part. And the importance of you doing your part is your service provider does their part, every other person does their part, but you are supposed to do your part as well. And that, of course, includes improving your practices and avoiding some of the things that we always do, like downloading applications from all sources, downloading email attachments from untrusted sources, having a weak password or reusing passwords, or having poor password hygiene, amongst others. So we expect that you're going to do your part so that this ecosystem is one where everyone is actually mindful of their responsibilities as they use technology, so that we are able, as a country, to harness the positive and, of course, avoid the negative. We've walked this journey over a period of 3 months, and we've been running a number of campaigns on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, as well as a website which has dynamic content. And the importance of you visiting the website is the adversaries keep changing their tactics. Once we get to know about them, we create messages that are very easy for you to understand, and those messages are shared on the Be Safe Online website. So I urge all of us to continue with the drive to promote better practices on cybersecurity, and that is going to help us protect ourselves, because security is as strong as the weakest link. So we want the weakest link to be a bit fortified, so that it is a bit difficult for adversaries to capitalize whatever weaknesses could exist for the benefit of themselves alone, and for the disadvantage of the users of technology. So with this conference, as well as the campaign, I'm sure that we are going to enhance our understanding of the risks that are associated with throwing caution to the winds as we use technology, so that we are mindful of both the good and what can go bad, so that we can best use what is at our disposal. So with that, I would like to invite, first of all, the representative of the Permanent Secretary, Engineer Geoffrey Agoy. He's going to give us a speech on behalf of the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Geoffrey Agoy is my name. I'm the Commissioner for ICT Infrastructure Development in the Ministry of ICT. And before you, I'm standing in for the permanent secretary, as indicated by Mr. Mangeni. But before I deliver his speech, I think I just have a general comment. One is that perhaps we talked about going online. We may, at some point, actually look into the enabling environment in terms of the framework we have at hand. What we have, are they sufficient to actually achieve what we're calling a smart Uganda, a cyber incident-free for all entities? I know we have the Electronic Transaction Act, we have the Electronic Signature Act, the Computer Misuse, and I think lately we have the Data Protection and Privacy. But are those sufficient framework that we have at hand to address these issues of cybersecurity? With that, I think allow me do deliver the PS's message. I think I will beg you to allow me read as it is, not to change the meaning from perhaps what she had intended. With that, on behalf of the ICT and National Guidance Sector at large, it is with great pleasure to be here today during this cybersecurity awareness. It's important to note that every year, as the number of internet users increase, the more we get electronic gadgets and devices connected to the internet, both at home and at individual, both at home and as well at work. One key issue that immediately arises is privacy, both at individual and institutional level. I think I already talked something about this. The threat actors are getting more and more sophisticated and change tactics more often. Internet users, therefore, require awareness on the threat that exists and have dire consequences at individual and institutional level. As government, we are therefore obliged to protect internet users. As an intermediate intervention, government, through the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, has a national cyber strategy for the country, has actually drafted that national cyber security for the country, and I think is still undergoing finalization, stakeholder consultation. The strategy basically harmonizes national approach towards cybersecurity with the aim of achieving the highest cybersecurity maturity. The proposed national cybersecurity system established by this strategy is driven by the following 6 goals. 1 is fostering safe and trusted digital economy. 2 is threat preparedness and response. 3, robust cybersecurity ecosystem. Cyber skills, skilled Uganda, active and reliable partner of international community, and lastly, providing an enabling framework for this particular important topic of discussion we're discussing today. We are also happy to note that globally, the international community recognizes October as the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We are happy that the government of Uganda, though late, is following suit to ensure that internet users are equipped with the right knowledge to keep ahead of the cyber criminals. We are also happy to note that the website dedicated to cybersecurity awareness tips and updates has been set up. We urge NITA-U to use this platform to popularize this website, not only to those who are available physically, but also the rest of the people who are online, and where possible, use other means such as radios to actually make this website much more polarized to the rest of the country. We are also glad that NITA-U is driving this campaign as a means to create awareness on what threat exists.
The place where you'd like your ATM card to be delivered, and you're up and running. You can deposit money using mobile money and also withdraw. We've also seen in health practice, there's increase in telemedicine and also other things that we do. So in the midst of all that, is your personal data is being collected every day. And some of it is very sensitive, that needs to be protected. And in Uganda, we do have the Data Protection and Privacy Act that now regulates the collection and processing of that personal data. The previous speakers have talked about privacy a lot, and today we are honored to have the director, National Director for the Personal Data Protection Office, Ms. Stella Alibatese, who is a practicing advocate for over 22 years. She has a lot of experience, the bulk in the areas which have been on policy and regulatory matters in the public sector, including ICT. In this digital age that we live. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Stella.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for the opportunity to talk to, I hope no one is seeing my password. I've learned a lot in this last month and the many years that I've been with NITA. I can tell you recently, one of my banks called and they wanted information from me. I think that day I was not in a very good mood. So I remembered everything the DIS team has been teaching us. I asked the young gentleman, and I feel bad for him, why are you calling me? You have received many messages from this bank. I don't know your name. I don't know this number. The information you're asking for, you already have. Every time you get in touch with me, you use my email. Why are you now calling me and then asking me to give you an email that you already have? So I said, I'm not going to give you this information. Tell your boss, let them send me an email, and I'll respond to that email. And truth be told, within like 30 minutes, he had sent the email. So I told him, you're the people who create fraudsters, because you have this information, but you're calling me. Why are you calling me? First, send me the message. If I don't respond, then you use other measures. Have the person who has been in touch with me call me, because about 3 or 4 other people within that, branch had called me before. So I was wondering, why is a new person calling me? They've not been introduced. So our companies also, or even government bodies, need to be aware of how their behavior also impacts this space. So today we are talking about Be Safe Online. We are talking about things to do with cybersecurity. And we cannot discuss cybersecurity without talking about data protection and privacy. As rightly stated by Emmanuel and Engineer Geoffrey, we do have a Data Protection and Privacy Act, which was passed in 2019, and the ministry also gazetted the regulations recently in March 2021. Following the passing of those regulations, we now have a complete set of laws that governs data protection and privacy in Uganda. Today, I have a few minutes to talk about this law with a focus on the rights of a data subject, and I'll explain what a data subject is. Why did we need this law in the first place? We all know that the Constitution of Uganda is the supreme law of the land. And within the Constitution, as Ugandans, we have a number of rights that are enshrined. One of those rights is the right to privacy. And privacy comes in many forms. It can be privacy for your correspondence. It can be privacy for your communication. But there's also privacy as an individual. The information that talks about you, how can you ensure its privacy? So this law was passed to give effect to Article 27 of the Constitution, to provide for safeguards for our personal data, which is collected and processed by various actors in the country. The law also comprehensively and adequately provides for matters on data protection and privacy that had not been addressed in the previous legal regime on data protection. We did have certain provisions within our laws. I've already talked about the Constitution. We have privacy protections within the Regulation of Interception of Communications Act. When you look at the Registration of Persons Act, there's a whole part of that law that talks about the protection of that information that is collected by NIRA. But it was important that we have a comprehensive law that covers everyone, because NIRA is not the only body, whether public or private, that collects personal data. Many private companies, universities, civil society, government itself, we all collect personal data to be able to provide services for our various customers. This law applies to any person, institution, or public body collecting, processing, holding, or using personal data within Uganda. And it doesn't matter that this data is in physical form or is in digital form. As long as you're collecting personal data, this law applies to you. So whether you're in health, whether you're in security, whether you're in banking, whatever business you're doing or activity you're doing, this law actually applies to you. There are some key definitions that I want to explain. I don't know how many of us in this room have read this law. Let me start with how many of us know about this law or have heard about it? A show of hands. Okay. This is about maybe 50%, but because you're cybersecurity professionals, I would expect even better performance. But we may have people out there, our participants who are joining us virtually, who haven't heard about this law. So I thought it was important for me to define some of the terms. Now, the law defines a data controller to mean a person who alone, jointly with other persons, or in common with other persons, or as a statutory duty, determines the purposes for and the manner in which personal data is processed or is to be processed. So these are people that have been talking about who collect personal data. There are other definitions within the Act. They are people who collect the data but don't analyze it, or they don't store it themselves. Those are called data processors. So if you collect personal data, you're deemed to be either data controller, or if you process personal data, you're a data processor, and this law applies to you. A data subject is an individual like myself, like the members in this room and those who have joined us virtually, from whom or in respect of whom personal information has been requested, collected, processed, or stored. Personal data means information about a person from which that person can be identified, that is recorded in any form. So anything that can identify you, even your address can identify you, your telephone number can identify you, your name, your date of birth, your national ID number can also identify you. So anything that identifies you qualifies to be personal data under the Act. There are 7 principles that anyone collecting personal data must comply with. It is our responsibility as individuals to make sure that every time you share your personal data, check how are these principles being complied with by this company, by this public body, by any organization, or even an individual. How are they complying with these principles? The first principle is that whoever is collecting personal data must be accountable to the data subject for the data collected, processed, held, or used. And this means within that organization, you should have documentation that shows why you're collecting that data, what gives you the mandate to collect that data, how do you use that data when it comes to you, who do you share that data with, which other recipients receive that data beyond those that you may have disclosed. You should have a privacy policy that you display that should be evident to any individual that wants to transact with you, and detailing all these requirements. Every time you collect personal data, you must collect and process it fairly and lawfully. Fairly means if you disclose that I'm going to collect this data for this particular purpose, you only use it for that particular purpose and nothing else. Even if you process it further, there should be a relationship between that processing and the original purpose that you declared. Lawfully means that you have a mandate, or you have a contract, or you have the consent of the data subject before you collect or process this data. The third principle is that you only collect what you need and nothing else. So it must be adequate, relevant, and not excessive or unnecessary. The fourth principle is that once you collect this data, you only keep it for the period authorized by law or for which you require it. In other words, if you collect this information for a certain purpose, once you've fulfilled that purpose, you have to destroy this data or de-identify it or take whatever measures you need to do to make sure that you no longer are able to utilize that data. The fifth principle is that you must ensure quality of information collected, processed, used, or held. And you do this first by collecting this information from the individual themselves. Where you're not able to collect this information from the individual, you have to put measures in place that ensure that the information you're collecting is the correct information, and you have to give the individual an opportunity to either correct inaccuracies or to even review that data so that whatever you have is of good quality. As cybersecurity experts, you know the importance of quality information. They always say garbage in, garbage out. The sixth principle is transparency. You must ensure transparency and participation of the data subject in the collection, processing, use, and holding of the personal data. Transparency here is literally in the English sense. How transparent are you? What kind of information have you given this individual before you collect this information? Are you complying with those disclosures that you've given? How have you enabled the data subject to exercise their rights in respect of their personal data? And the last principle is security. Any organization that collects or processes personal data must observe security of, must ensure the security of personal data to prevent abuse, loss, and other risks. Given the topic of this conference, I think I don't have to say much about that. Now, it was very important for me to give you that foundation or the background, because every time you go to a processor or a data collector or a controller, you have to go through these processes. If you're a company, you must evaluate yourself. How are you complying with these principles? If you're an individual, you have to think about how this organization is complying with these principles, because that is the best way you can enforce your rights. Because if you do not know what is expected from the other side, it will be very difficult for you to ensure accountability on your side. The law under Part 4 provides for a number of rights for data subjects, and these are the individuals that we talked about. The first right is the right to access personal information. This means that I can walk into NITA, assuming I wasn't employed by NITA, and ask NITA, what information do you have about me? Or do you have any information about me? If they say yes, what information do you have about me? How do you use that data? What gave you the mandate to collect it? Who gave you this information? I have a right to access that personal data. And this right covers private and public organizations. The second right is the right to object to or prevent processing of personal data. So if I'm aware that, for instance, the Bankers Evidence Act requires banks to keep my data for 10 years, and I'm no longer a customer of this bank, after 12 years, I can still go to this bank, exercise my right to access personal information, ask them, what kind of data do you have about me? How long have you kept that data? If I find that they've kept it beyond the period they are required to, I can object and say, please, do not process my data anymore. And I can exercise my right to request that they delete or destroy that data. The other right is the right to prevent processing of personal data for direct marketing. We've all received calls. I'm not going to name a particular company. There's a company that keeps calling people. Your service is not up. What happened? Can we give you a month free? Can we? So many things. It means they are going beyond the reason for which they collected that personal data. So I have a right actually to write, and I'm actually thinking about it, to write and say, please, this is my name, because you have to identify yourself. This is my email address. This is my telephone number. I know where you are. Please do not call me to market new products. Of course, when you do that, you have to be mindful that if they don't market to you, you may also miss a number of good innovations or services that would have been of benefit to you. But ultimately, that decision is yours to make, and you have a right to do it under this law. The law also particularly provides that a data subject and a data controller may enter into a contract for pecuniary benefit. So we have, in developed countries, we have like mailing lists where people allow for people to market, products to them. So you can have a contract with this organization that maintains a mailing list or a database of Ugandans, and because of that, you're able to receive information and maybe benefit financially from it. A data subject also has a right to rectification, blocking, erasure, and destruction of personal data, and this is also a right within the Act. If you find someone is holding that data unlawfully, if you find the data is inaccurate, you can actually request that this data is rectified or destroyed. We have a right in relation to automated decision making, and this means I can write to an organization and say, when it comes to me, especially because the law requires that impact must be significant to you. So if I can prove that this organization, by making decisions, automated decisions about me, the impact is significant, I can write to this organization and ask that when it comes to me, there must be a human being that verifies or that reviews that decision. We have a right to information under the Act. And the law requires data controllers to give us a lot of information, and I talked about it earlier. If you remember the principle of transparency, They must tell you who they are. They must tell you why they are collecting the information. They must tell you how long they will keep the information. They must tell you who they will share their information with. They must tell you how you can exercise your right, how you can raise complaints, and things like that. This is to ensure informed consent so that before you agree to engage with this organization, you know exactly how your data is going to be utilized. How do we exercise our rights as data subjects? First of all, you must understand your rights. And I thank the organizers of this conference for giving me this opportunity to talk to you and illustrate what these rights are. You can raise complaints first with the data controllers. If your complaint is not addressed, you can also raise that complaint with the office. You can also seek compensation for damage or distress suffered, but we need to know that it is a defense for that data controller or processor to prove that they took reasonable care in all circumstances to comply with the Act. Because we know that yes, a company may take all the measures that it needs to make, but still maybe suffer breach. So if you file a case against this organization, but they are able to prove that they took all the measures, and taking the measures does not mean, yes, I have an information security policy. You should demonstrate your compliance with that information security policy. There are a number of consequences for non-compliance. I will not talk much about this, but there is damage to the reputation of the institution if you don't comply with the Act. We have fines of up to 2% of the institution's annual gross turnover, and of course imprisonment of every office of the institution who knowingly and willingly authorized or permitted any non-compliance with the Act. So in law, we always say there's a corporate veil for companies and organizations. This law actually lifts that veil so that if there's any non-compliance, the office can also prosecute the individual who participated. And it could be the accounting officer for government bodies, it could be the MD for private bodies, but it can even go down to an individual officer, as long as in the investigations we can prove that you participated in this transgression. I'll briefly talk about the Personal Data Protection Office because a number of questions are normally raised. There's that confusion. Is this NITA? Is this the office? What is this? Now, under the NITA-U Act, under Section 5F, NITA had the responsibility for regulating data protection in Uganda. To be able to do that with the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, a law was developed, that is the Data Protection and Privacy Act. However, at that particular time, even today actually, we have a moratorium on creating new organizations. But the Malabo Convention under the AU requires partner states like Uganda to create independent data protection authorities. Globally, the standard is that you must have independent data protection offices. However, because of our particular circumstances, Parliament, instead of creating a new body, or instead of leaving it purely to NITA as an organization, within the law, they created the Personal Data Protection Office. And within that law, they also provided for its independence. In executing its duties, it is supposed to be under, it's not supposed to be under the direction of anybody or any authority. So while the Personal Data Protection Office is within NITA, it actually handles its activities differently. And that may explain why I don't have those lovely shirts that the team at NITA are using here. So this is provided for under the Act. And this office is led by the National Data Protection Director, who is myself. So I hope that explains it a bit. Lastly, we are undertaking, as an office, we are undertaking a lot of activities to ensure compliance with the law. We are creating a lot of awareness and taking advantage of opportunities such as this. The law requires all data controllers, data processors, and data controllers to register with the office. We have set up or given a grace period up to the end of December 2021 to allow organizations to register. Remember, this law applies to public and private. So if you're a public body collecting this personal data, you're supposed to register. If you're a private body, if you're an NGO, if you're a university, as long as you're collecting personal data, you are supposed to register. Starting January 2022, we'll start taking enforcement measures for those organizations who would not have registered. We have a website, www.pdpo.go.ug, which has a lot of information, and I request you to have a look. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of information you'll get on personal data protection in Uganda. Please make use of that website. Lastly, personal data protection is the responsibility for all of us. Let us all do our part because our privacy matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Normally, I believe that all of us have heard, so I will not try and summarize what has been said. That will be repeating things. But since we do have the regulator in the Office for Personal Data, I want to make a disclosure. If you're in this room, because we are taking photos, if you don't want your photo to appear in any publication we make, just please inform the team so that we protect your privacy. Number two, I have been exercising my rights on privacy. I went to one pharmacy and I wanted to make a payment using card. So I gave the lady the card, but she was taking long, so I had to notice what she was doing at the back. So she was writing entering the number into after doing the swiping, she was entering the number of the card onto the platform, onto our system, then go ahead and type the name as well. So I asked her, why do you need all this information? I'm buying medicine. As much as I know, you do have the POS machines. I just have to insert my card and the transaction is done. Why do you have to retain this information at the end of the day? So the lady insisted. So I brought my Kajanja, I insisted. She called the manager, we have a client. He wants to talk to you. So I explained to the client, and the owner understood what I was talking about. So the next day I went, I noticed they had stopped the habit. Because unlike what most people don't know, if you collect the personal data, such credit card data is even classified as sensitive data, you have the obligation to protect it. So if you don't collect it, you don't have to protect it. And the funny thing with these cards, if someone takes a picture of the front of your card and the back of the card, depending on the security of the e-commerce application they're using it, they can run a transaction and you'll just get an SMS saying, thank you for transacting, and it's not you. So please protect your credit card details. And today we're going to have our first panel. I've been seeing a storm on social media over what we call manos. Manos are panels which have a lot of men on them. So it's a term that has mainly been used to describe the exclusion of women when it comes to any society setting where matters are being discussed. And our program today has been very careful to balance that perspective. So I'd like to invite our next panelists. We do have, before I invite the next panelists, we've been running this campaign since August. We're doing radio shows, we run on social media, we've had a lot of Twitter spaces, and the biggest question that comes is, where do I report cybercrime? And we tell people it's the police, and people are saying, you're joking. I'm saying we are serious. The police has capacity to investigate cybercrime. Every year they produce an annual crime and safety report. For the last 5 years of that report, there is now a section dedicated to cyber-related crime. And we are honored today to have a representative from the Uganda Police Force, none other than Dan Munanura, who is the Acting Commissioner, Electronic Countermeasures Unit, under the CID. So please welcome me and invite in welcoming. Dan, please come and take a seat. We do also know, about 2 years ago, a company called Seriano did a research in Uganda and Kenya. That report revealed that we do have the cybersecurity skills gap. When people are looking for people with the right knowledge to protect their systems, they found that the number of opportunities they demand versus what we are supplying is limited when it comes to the actual expertise. And we do know we have, globally, there's what we call the ISACA chapter. They are a more than 50-year-old organization that has been promoting professional growth in cybersecurity, information assurance, and IT audit. Today we are honored to have Mr. Bernard Wanyama, representing the board of the ISACA Kampala chapter. He's also the managing director of Syntech Associates. Himself is a person of the skill. He has so many certifications from ISACA. Normally, ISACA has 4 certifications. If you have all of them, they call you a general because you have all the credentials. So he's a general in the ISACA chapter, but he has over 15 years of industry experience and has worked with so many clients and different banks. And he's also serves also in the international boards of ISACA, where it comes to reviewing what they're teaching and seeing how it's effective and keeping it relevant to the times we live in. He's an accredited trainer as well, and he has 3 lovely children and also married to 1 wife. So I invite Bernard to come from ISACA. Again, balancing the flow, we do have Lilian Nalwoga. She's a technology researcher. She's an advocate interested in promoting and advancing the proper use of ICT for empowerment and development. If you're very active in the Uganda internet space, she has another name called ISOC, so it's part of her, Lilian Nalwoga ISOC, for most people that know her. Over 15 years, she's doing a lot of internet policy research, implementing ICT for deep projects in Africa. Every year, she's always at the helm of the internet governance events that do take place, and we do have one coming in November. And she's also served on different UN multi-stakeholder advisory groups for global internet governance, and also advising on the African Union policy and regulatory initiative for Africa. She's a long time powering things around online safety, child online safety, and she's also the co-founder of the board of Internet Society in Uganda. Please welcome to the panel, Ms. Lilian Nalwoga ISOC. So as Leah makes her way, I know a lot of the young people out there use social media, and social media has one of the biggest apps is Instagram that most people use. Some people use it as a source of livelihood, and some people use it for entertainment and for different aspects. Now, one of the tricks that different criminals use is the human mind. We react quickly when we are in flight, which means if something is urgent, if something requests something quickly from you, you're going to react, especially if it is threatening you. If there was a loud blast inside this room, it's not going to happen. would all be running out that door because we are reacting and in flight mode as well. So for most these people facing on Instagram, there are a lot of criminals. You have a lot of young people who are talented and have too much time on their hands. So they target people who have a large number of followers. And what they will do is send you a direct message and say, we have noticed that you are violating copyright for Instagram. We are going to deactivate your account within the next 10 minutes. For more details, click on this link. So when you see that, you get threatened and you flight mode and you click on that link, and that's the end of the day for you. Because that link is a malicious link, and that will give someone access to your accounts. So if you've not understood anything, please activate two-factor authentication on your Instagram account right now. If you just Google and go to Instagram, you'll see it on their help page. That will save you a lot of headache, a lot of Panadols, and a lot of tears. So today, from our panel here today, from police force, last year, the report showed Uganda lost over 15 billion due to cyber-related crime. That's a staggering figure. And this is not money stolen physically from a vault, or they've not found you on the street or ransacked you. This is through cyber-related ways, cyber-related fraud. And that is 15 billion. And we know this is quite a drop in the number of cases that are actually reported to the police force. So for those that have reported, over 15 billion lost. And Dan will ask you shortly to let us know, give confidence to our team here that police, first of all, has the capacity to investigate crime, and also how can people report crime in actual sense, cyber crime at any police force. Then for Mr. Bernard, we know the chapter has been active in Kampala for over 8 years. From the personal side, I would like to hear the story for Isaka Kampala chapter. How have you been actually promoting the cybersecurity profession in Uganda, and what has been the impact? From Lillian, we want to know ISOC. Everyone knows ISOC is the Internet Society. It's all about open development, evolution, and use of the internet. And the focus is that internet should benefit everyone throughout the world. And we know part of this includes cybersecurity. So from today, we want to know which initiatives have you been carrying out, and also the impact. At the bottom of all this, like has been mentioned in the beginning, the theme for this year is doing your part. And today, we want listening from our partners here. If you're online, please chat your question or inquiry, or you can use the hashtag BeSafeOnlineUG or OnlineSafetyUG. Our team will pick it up and will relay it to our partners. So from Dan, what is the capacity within Uganda Police Force to investigate cyber-related crime?
Thank you, Emmanuel. First of all, I would like to thank NITA-U for this initiative because one of the challenges we have been having people not reporting those cases. And actually, for me, I believe the reason is they didn't even know that there are cases. Otherwise, everybody knows that any case is supposed to be reported to police. Maybe I can first give a brief background about cybercrime in police. In 2011, Ministry of ICT helped to come up with a structure of the Directorate of ICT within police. And there was a department called Electronic Countermeasures, which I actually head. And it had 3 sections. One, electronic forensics, and the second one, electronic technical services, then electronic investigations. But later, they decided that all matters to do with investigation should be with CID, and a department of cyber investigations was formed in CID, the directorate of CID. And after that, they even decided that for purposes of independence, somebody should not, because after the Department of Cybercrime was formed in the director of CID, then for us, we are supposed to assist CID when it comes to investigation of cyber-related cases, especially in issues of collecting evidence. But later they said, you can't investigate, then collect evidence, and take it to court yourself. So they wanted some sort of independence, and there was formed the Department of Cybercrime Unit, basically which has the laboratory and was put under the Director of Forensics. Over the years, we have built capacity by recruiting people trained in digital investigations, and even training the people we have already in the force. Because most of the time, you find that people think if it is a cyber-related crime, then it should be investigated by IT or technology people, basically. But you actually need more of the traditional investigation methods when you are doing investigation in order to make up a case. The technical side, I may say, can make maybe 40, but the 60% is made by the traditional investigations, how you make up a file and how you can make a good case. So as per now, we have enough capacity to investigate cyber-related cases, and this is so because we even have some partnerships with NITA-U, for example, with UCC, with Makerere, and I would like to ask the members here, since you are from the cybersecurity fraternity, we can work together and come up with partnerships that can help us investigate cyber crimes with more efficiency and speed. Of course, we have some challenges, which is the fact that when you go up country and you have to report a cybercrime-related case, they will have to refer you to CID headquarters. But that's a challenge that we are solving. Recently, we recruited around 250 personnel, and have been trained in cybersecurity and cyber investigations, and they're actually supposed to be deployed up country. And this is partly so because of our camera system that has gone all over the country, and the evidence that is being collected is majorly digital, and we wanted people who can go there and help in investigation of such kind of crimes where that evidence is involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. You've heard from the horse's mouth. Police is equipped. Technology, it's a check. Personnel is a check. And also, it's one thing to have personnel, another thing to have competence. But competence, also a check. And that is very good. So briefly, how can someone report cybercrime? Can they go to any police post and be able to do that?
Yes, you go to any police station, but when they find out that it is cyber-related, they refer you to CID headquarters where there is the cyber crime department.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarity. So now we all know where to report, and it's happening. For just one last rejoinder is from the cases you investigated, what do you think, not what do you think, from the cases you've investigated, what has been the topmost causes of the electronic fraud that we investigated?
I think the topmost cause is the lack of awareness of the public. Because, and I think that's why even some of them don't report such kind of cases, because when somebody is maybe defrauded and he himself or herself looks at the way it was done, depending on his or her status, he may decide to just keep quiet. There has been a trending type of fraud where through social media you meet a friend, after some 1 week or two, he tells you he's sending you a package, and indeed you get a call from airport, and they just ask you some little money, maybe 100, 200. We have reported very many cases of that kind of fraud. So you see, I don't know, if you meet somebody that you don't even know and you trust that he can send you some package and you even pay for it, I think the issue is on the ignorance of the public on fraud-related cases.
Thank you so much, Dan. You've been warned, you've had Nigerian princes are real. And also, I used to think they were not real until I started interacting with the police. And I actually found out that they're actually very real, and people are losing hard-earned money in the hope of getting free-earned money. So something that sounds too good to be true is normally too good to be true. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it is surely a duck. I want to turn over to Bernard from ISACA. ISACA is big on professional development. And from Bernard, if you can tell us a story for ISACA Kampala chapter, what have you been doing, playing your part in making sure that in Uganda we have the skill? Because most people think to be an expert, you have to fly to the US, you have to fly to UK, and that's quite a large sum of money. So we can do these things right here in Uganda, in Kampala, and in different towns. And this is being made possible by chapters such as yours.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. A good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. ISACA Kampala chapter belongs to the global ISACA organization, which has an objective of allowing organizations and individuals unlock the positive potential of technology. In a technology-driven world, in a digital world, we need to have the right skills, the right insights, the right knowledge to glean the benefits, glean from the opportunities, and manage the risks. So the Kampala chapter was formed in 2010, so we've been around for 11 years, and today we have 400 members. Our membership is largely drawn from information security professionals and information security audit professionals working in the corporate institutions. And that means that we really primarily serve the corporate sector, which again points us to a deficit of manpower across other areas like SMEs, which indeed form the backbone of the economy. So when you talk about 400 certified individuals spread across maybe the 26 banks and the maybe 50 ministries and a few other public sector organizations, we then start to see that the backbone of the economy, which are the SMEs and the schools and other institutions, which are not necessarily profit-oriented or are able to afford high-level skills, those are being left out. And yet those are where the action is happening in terms of cybersecurity risks, privacy risks, and all the other dangers of getting online without sufficient risk management and control. So we are looking at partnering beyond our corporate focus. We are working with universities. We have ISACA students groups in universities to ensure that as students come out of the university, they have a sense of direction that allows them to take on cybersecurity careers, but they also have research and resources to allow them upskill, whether they are doing networks, whether they are doing software development, whether they are doing creative digital media. They do have awareness about cybersecurity, they know the importance of cybersecurity, and they're able to apply it. We also work with the universities to augment their curriculum so that the traditional computer science and software development and IT curriculum has a lively element of information security and cybersecurity, so that the professionals that go out to work in organizations are able to take those skills and work in those organizations to improve their cybersecurity posture. So we do think that activities such as these help us to strengthen our economy in terms of digital skills, and we are grateful for the support of NITA Uganda. And I must mention that NITA is our key strategic partner. From day one, we've worked with NITA to grow the information security profession in Uganda, and we continue to be grateful for the support and the achievements that we've had so far, coming from less than 10 individuals huddled around Bank of Uganda in 2008 and before, to 400 certified professionals renewing their membership year on year is a great achievement. But for our economy of 40 million people and 35 billion GDP, we do need more people to come on board, more people skilled, more people trained, and more people able to deliver the protection, the guidance, and the services that the economy requires. So we are looking at widening the scope, going into awareness that serves the general public, such as this, but also having focused training that speaks to key groups like leaders, could be CEOs, could be local government officials, anybody who is in a position of making decisions and allocating resources, so that they are aware of the importance of digital security, of cybersecurity, and are able to make the right decisions as they allocate resources within the organization. We also want to speak to other groups like students, like parents, across the different areas of safety. It could be child safety, could be privacy, could be crime. We want to ensure that as an economy, there is no black spots or gray spots or areas that are left behind that then drag down the rest of the sectors and reduce our safety or our ability to thrive in a digital economy, as it were. So we want to be a partner. We are open to partnerships, and we work at a partnership, from a partnership level, to ensure that all organizations that are doing the same thing can work together and can move the needle in terms of reducing our vulnerabilities as an economy and improving our competitiveness in the digital space. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you so much for giving us the confidence. We have capacity to learn this here in Kampala. We've been having teams going around, and the questions most people have been asking young people, where can we learn cybersecurity? I'm interested. And today, if you're online, the ISACA Kampala chapter is one of those that you can access to learn. And what's interesting is that there's a company that carried out research on the employment scale in Kampala, and what was noticed is that there are about about almost close to 1,000, between 400 and 600 jobs which are required in cybersecurity. But all of them are looking for someone who has competence. So today, a degree in IT alone will not cut it. It's becoming competitive. You need to step a little bit and show that you have one of these credentials, which help to show that you have the competence to do the job day one. So that's, thank you for the impact. From 8 to over 400 professionals, that is quite significant growth. Thank you, Bernard. From Lillian, from the Internet Society. If you can tell us the story of ISOC, how you've been championing cybersecurity and doing your part. Personally, I think right out of university, the NITA-Society was one of the platforms that I was lucky to be introduced to early on, where I actually learned most of the baseline information that has powered me to where I am today. So I have some allegiance on your side. Lillian, over to you.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Good morning, everyone. I'll tell a brief story about the Internet Society, just like the Isaka chapter. We are part of the Global Internet Society, and we mainly focus on policy and the technical standards of the Internet. So we believe in an Internet for everyone, and our mission, our goal is to see that we have a safe, free, okay, not free as such, but safe, secure, and affordable internet. So our mandate here in Uganda is to work around promoting the open standard, the open development of the internet, but also to create awareness about different internet-related issues or concerns, whether from the policy angle, whether it's from a technical perspective, whether it is from capacity building. We've been operational in Uganda since 1998, but I think there was some years that the chapter kind of went, I think in the Ugandan way we say it died, it went into recess. But so sometime in 2011, I and among a group of friends sat down and said we needed to rejuvenate the chapter, and here we are today. We've done a lot of work on promoting cybersecurity and mainly on child online safety. This is through our focus on the broader spectrum of the internet, where we convene the annual Internet Governance Forum. And at this forum, we bring together different internet industry experts to share views, opinions about internet in general, how it should run, policy issues, and mandates who does what, when, and where. I recall in 2013, we had a conversation, and the issue of child online safety was one of the things that hit us or blew our mind. And I remember then the NITA executive director, Mr. James Saka, may his soul rest in peace, came out and said we need to do something about child online safety, because there were so many stories of what was happening to children online. When you look back, now we are in 2021, and you look back 2013, you may say that maybe 2013 there was less exposure to the internet, but like I think, Emmanuel, you mentioned that children move faster. You know, they are curious by nature. So we started crafting a campaign around child online safety. But before that, we wanted to know what's happening in the country. So we did a quick synopsis of the laws, what was happening. We found lots of gaps in the existing legislation. We also did research in different schools across the country. We selected 2 schools per region, and we're looking at the age group of 8 to 18 years. And we found there was quite a lot of interesting things that the children were expressing in terms of the issues that they were facing. Issues of cyber stalking. I know I heard the commissioner mention that there needs to be something done, and I know NITA is doing with the Be Safe Online campaign about reporting child sexual images online. But again, there are other issues like stalking, harassment that is ongoing, and right now I know there is legislation, but not specifically on child online safety, but it focuses on the broader spectrum, of cyber harassment and cyberbullying. So in 2014, we did start campaigns. we went to schools trying to create awareness about, child safety. We're talking to children. We're taking advantage, to speak to parents, with, what are they called, that parents-teacher meetings. We would take opportunities when there would be assemblies in schools, and we would go and, take our message. And I can say that back even then, that NITA has been a strategic partner for the Internet Society Uganda chapter, where we went to schools like Ambrosoli International School, which is a little bit more advanced. And I remember we learned so many things from their laboratory. We also went to Gayaza, where we found that, they have an ICT lab, and this is one of the issues that we are focusing on. However, over the years, right now to where we are, we've been running campaigns about child online safety, whether we are doing it online or physically. We've been working with other non-government institutions to just have, these, because we assume that if you're going to do it online, we might as well take onto the online spaces. So we've been very active in the online space, and with a recent, just concluded Cyber Security Awareness Month, we've been very vocal in promoting cyber security, but also child online safety in particular. In 2019, just before COVID hit us, we had embarked on a nationwide campaign, and we were being supported by the Uganda Communications Commission, where we went to schools across the country, developing, content on child online safety. Just so I mentioned that we do develop a child online safety kit, which was adopted by NITA, and it can be accessed on both the NITA website, the UCC website, our website, and different partners we've worked with. We've also done this toolkit. It is under Creative Commons, so you can download it, take it to your child, take it to your families, relatives, and all that. Our main focus has been mainly that when it comes to child online safety, it is everyone's responsibility. Actually, when it comes to security, privacy, data protection, it's everyone's responsibility. So many a times when such issues come up, people run to police, everyone is looking at government. But again, we forget that, raising a child, charity begins from home. So we have addressed some of these issues in that, and we are glad to see that we are here, and NITA has taken on this campaign to a much wider, audience, and we are happy to be here. I think I can stop there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lillian. Indeed, yes, the ISOC has been very active even in pushing child online safety, which has been good to raise the voice within the communities, the schools, and the teaching community on the dangers that are there and how they can go about them. So I want to quickly invite members of the media. If you have any question, please ask now, and please be specific to whom you're asking the question. And then we'll also respond to those that have come in online, and then we thank our panel for the day. So do we have any question from the media? Okay, so I'm going to go to the questions online, and there are actually 3 questions for each one of the panel. For Dan, the question is, in this age of digital, is it possible for police to allow reporting cybercrime electronically without having to come physically to the police station? Then the second for Bernard is, what are the opportunities for someone who is at university? They have not yet finished their second year because of the delays in the universities opening up. So they're asking how can they launch onto ISACA to learn some cybersecurity skills without getting a certification. Then from Lillian, The question is, how can we best scale down? I think it means how can we best take the message on digital literacy down to the local citizenry. So that is not only a message for a few classes of people who take on cyber literacy. That's from Charles Ojoya Online. So I think we start with Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, it is possible. Actually, it is already being done. People are sending us complaints, especially people who are sending complaints from outside Uganda. And we open up case files, although at a time we need to interview those complainants, because a complainant statement is very important in a case file. So it is possible and it is happening.
Thank you, Dan. Bernard?
Thank you, Emmanuel. For students at university and tertiary level, we do have opportunities. Number one, we do hold monthly seminars, which have now morphed into webinars, that provide high-quality learning experiences, and those are free to the public, and anybody can join and be part of them. We also have an ISACA Students Group program, which can be valuable to anybody in a public or private university or at a tertiary level. And then we do have opportunities for mentorship, to be mentored or to be paired with a mentor to help guide you in your career journey or in your professional journey. So you can contact us by email, info@isaca.or.ug, or reach out to us on our social media. We have a Twitter handle, we have a YouTube page. I think we also have Instagram and LinkedIn. So it's ISACA Kampala chapter on social media. It's easy to find, or info@isaca.or.ug. We'll be able to pair you with a mentor, guide you on how to join our monthly events, and also help you work out your career aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. And over to you, Lillian.
Yes, how can we take digital literacy to everyone?
Muntu Awansi, yes.
To what? In what?
Muntu Awansi.
To Muntu
everywhere.
Awansi.
Yes.
That's a tricky one, because one is we've been working with, there are lots of non-government or non-for-profit organizations or civil society organizations that are doing this work, working with grassroots organizations, what we call more of CBOs, community-based organizations, in creating, digital literacy. But you see, when you look at the whole concept of digital literacy, it's really, really, really broad. One is we are looking at a population where majority are still offline. And when they get offline, they get so excited with the social media. And that is all they do online. They are on Facebook, or they are on, sending audios, WhatsApp, and all that. But again, I think what can be done is working with different stakeholders. I know the commission, the Uganda Communications Commission, is doing quite a lot in reaching out to, working with schools under I think the RSDF. And well, we need to just focus on literacy in terms of skilling. There's the soft, and also there's the hard skills. In terms of how do we get to work to get people to understand how to use the computers, and I think that is primarily what government is doing. But then we've seen quite a number of civil society organizations that are doing this kind of work with the grassroots organizations. The soft skills part is where probably the problem comes, comes in, and maybe the technical aspects that ISACA is doing is what can be addressed. But I think we need to invest more. It requires a lot of resources. Well, financially, human resources, because I don't see us going and saying that we are going to reach the entire, population in Uganda. So we need to develop champions empower the organizations that are doing this kind of work, empower government, to do the awareness part, because, digital literacy also comes into engaging different users. So creating awareness about existing legislation, what law enforcement is doing, what the different, stakeholders are doing is also part of, digital literacy. So I would say that we need to put our hands together, work with existing partners, but also try to secure, look for resources in terms of finances to be able to do that kind of, nationwide campaign.
Thank you so much, Lilian. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in a round of applause for our panel, for the insight that has been shared with us today. And we're going to continue these discussions more frequently. Thank you so much. One of the tips we have online is on that Be Safe Online website is the tips on online safety for children. And we just wanted to highlight that most of these platforms actually have an age where you're supposed to use them. For Instagram, the minimum age is 13, Facebook is 13, Twitter is 13 years, Pinterest 13 years, Snapchat 13 years minimum, and then for WhatsApp, they recommend 16 years minimum to start using WhatsApp. So this is some of the tips that we keep giving out there so that you can be aware about them. So we just want to dive straight into our next panel. And this panel is going to address cybersecurity first, not cybersecurity after or as an afterthought, but cybersecurity first, and making security a priority in business, in work environments, and also a priority amongst individuals. So on this panel, welcome me in joining the following ladies and gentlemen that are going to be part of the panel. I want to start with, the panel will be chaired by Ms. Angela Tugume, who is the Manager Data Protection Affairs at the Personal Data Protection Office, who has over 10 years experience in cybersecurity risk management. Please welcome in joining Angela Tugume. Next, we do have Mr. Cyrus Barige, who is the Director ICT and Security at the Financial Intelligence Authority, Uganda. Cyrus has over 16 years experience in the cybersecurity space and is also a certified information security manager and also data privacy solutions engineer. Welcome to the panel, Mr. Cyrus from Financial Intelligence Authority. Also join me in welcoming Mr. Andrew Walusimbi, who is representing the Uganda Bankers Association. UBA brings together the banks licensed by Bank of Uganda and to collaborate mutually on matters that affect them. So Andrew is an information security specialist as well. He has over 12 years of experience in the banking sector. All of us have money somewhere, so it's a sensitive item to us. Thank you for honoring the invites, Andrew. He's also an executive member of the Cybersecurity Committee within the Uganda Bankers Association, and is also a member of the National Information Security Advisory Group. You're welcome, Andrew. Also join me in welcoming Ms. Diana Agaba, who is representing the ISC2 Uganda chapter. That's another chapter that offers cybersecurity certification and training with one of the strongest certifications, the CISSP. Then as a cybersecurity professional with over 10 years experience in developing and implementing cybersecurity programs in large organizations. She's also a certified information systems professional, and she belongs in various professional bodies, such as ISC2 Self, that she's representing here today. She's also a member of ISACA Kampala chapter and also PCB. Due to her passion, she's also a member, a board member of the Women in Cybersecurity, the East Africa affiliate. The mission of that affiliate is to recruit, retain, and advocate more women in the cybersecurity space. Currently, she's manager IT security at one of the leading banks, and her passion is to ensure wherever she goes, cybersecurity is felt. Please welcome to the panel, Ms. Diana. So I hand over to Ms. Angela to take us through the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this panel. So our topic is making cybersecurity a priority in business and work environment. So I'll begin with you, Cyrus. We know that the Financial Intelligence Authority is a government agency established by the Parliament of Uganda to monitor, investigate, and prevent money laundering in the country. Now, with the increase in fintech, how is FIA curbing money laundering in this space driven by innovation? Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you, NITA-U, for this platform and also for this engagement. FIA, as you well know, is mandated to handle money laundering activities, amongst other tasks. And how do they sync with fintech to oversee or monitor financial transactions that are suspicious and maybe auditable? Now, at FIA, we have invested heavily in technologies that have artificial intelligence embedded in them, such that we have real-time alerts, and also such that we address the vast amounts of cybersecurity gaps and risks that are there in the financial space. We have had various stakeholder engagements with various fintechs and also law enforcement agencies that help us address the ever-emerging and dynamic patterns of the business. As you very well know, there are many repercussions if these financial transactions that are not legal go through the systems. So as far as the theme is concerned, and as far as us engaging with fintechs, we have quite a number of meetings. We have a number of MOUs with them, and also we're investing heavily in training and certification of staff. And I think I would like to thank the previous panel, Mr. Benjamin, who highlighted that we, from 800 to 400 certified professionals in the field. I'd like to think that FIA has quite a number of staff as well in that line that help us understand the principles, or the, if you like to call them, the SOPs of cybersecurity in line with fintech. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. So I picked that you're actually taking both collaborative approach and also working with the fintechs in order to make sure that they meet your requirements. Thank you. So while we're still talking money, I'll jump over to Mr. Walusimbi. We know that the number of the population holding accounts in banks is over 4 million. That's about 33% of the 12 million who are bankable in Uganda. Now, given the fast adoption of ICT in banking, and also the current digital banking drive as a result of COVID-19, I would like to know, how are banks keeping our money safe against cyber-related crime and breaches, given the Privacy Act as well? Because we know that everyone follows the money. So where the money is, we go. So we're concerned. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to your audience. picking on how banks are keeping money, how they are keeping your money safe. There are very many ways, there are so many strategies we're trying to put in place to ensure that the money you keep with the various banks remains intact and that even the information that you share with them remains intact. So firstly, what we realized a couple of years ago was that fighting cybercrime, cyber fraud individually as individual financial services institutions is not going to be effective going forward. So what we have done under the blanket of UBA is we came together with a collaborative effort to create a common front to fight cybercrime, to prepare, but also to fight against it. Specifically, we want to put together a security operations center, and the primary purpose is to share threat intelligence, to share ways in which we can fight the common enemy, because individually some institutions are not at the same level of maturity when it comes to preparedness, fighting against cybercrime. So this collaborative effort is going to help us push in the same direction, if I can say that, when it comes to fighting cybercrime. So that is number one. And maybe just in addition to that, I don't know if I can say this, there is an RFP out there requesting competent firms to come and help us with some consultancy work to operationalize this SOC solution. So whoever is interested, you might want to check out the UBA website or get in touch with them so that we can get this moving. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is individual institutions. I've been talking about the UBA perspective, and now I'm going to talk about the individual banks or financial services institutions. Number one, the discussion around cybersecurity needs to be, for some organizations, these conversations are happening at the board level as a constant agenda item. And so, because the stakes are very high, it's very important that people at that level are having this information and discussing it. Others have made it mandatory to have a cybersecurity expert at that level to help them digest that technical information and make sense of it. We have also, again, under UBA, put together a national, like minimum security requirement. And we drummed that off the National Information Security Framework from your office. And basically, we're just advising banks on how to self-assess themselves, prepare themselves for any eventualities, but also make their spaces airtight in the event of a fraud or in case of cyber-related incidents. So those two aspects, both from an individual institutional perspective, but also from the umbrella perspective, are what we're doing to try and ensure that the money that is kept with us, as well as the information, are intact at all times. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm tempted to ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how you're doing as the bankers. Just tempted to ask.
I would say 5, unfortunately. Because of the magnitude of the threat, you would think we would be moving a little faster. Unfortunately, when you start to collaborate with people, not everyone is at the same speed, at the same page. But the effort is there, and for me, that is what is very important.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a pass mark, actually, Andrew. In school, if you got 50, you passed. Thank you so much. I'll move over to Diana. Diana, I know you belong to ISC Squared, which is an international non-profit membership association for information security leaders like yourself and like most of the members on this panel. So over the recent years, we're seeing an increase in SMEs using ICT as a business enabler. Now, with most of the focus on large enterprises, we know that SMEs are usually left out when it comes to cybersecurity, in terms of the attention that they get as well, and the help, and the fact that their budgets are also not up to there. So what are your top 3 tips that you can give these SMEs?
Thank you, Angela, for that question. For starters, to lay the foundation of my suggested tips is that when you talk of cybersecurity, we are all in the business of protecting data from either insider or external threat actors. And if we're talking about protecting data, be it at individual level, be it a big organization, be it an SME, you'll have data that you're holding and that you need to protect. So it can no longer just be a subject of interest for only large enterprises, but everyone, even at individual level. I know now we are referred to as data subject. Why? Because we are data itself and we need to be protected. So SMEs can no longer be left behind. For one fact is that in our economy, we work in more of an ecosystem. So even if you're an enterprise, you'll have third parties that are still small that you interact with. And much as you have built that security around yourself, if this small SME is the one that, say, for example, giving you servicing of your printers, they are getting access to your environment, and if they do not have the cyber awareness or the cyber survey that they need, they will expose you. So even large enterprises have to take a step back and say, how do I walk this journey with the small SMEs that I'm working with to ensure that they are not an exposure point for myself as a large organization? Looking at the current threats that we're seeing, one of the prominent ones that came out going into 2021 was a supply chain attack. So you have protected yourself, and this supply of yours is the one that is actually exposing you. And yet they do not have the budget to actually put in the controls that you have put in place. So how do you then make the balance to ensure that they are walking the journey with you and they are not indeed the point of exposure that you have as a big enterprise? So one, it's a call to the big enterprises to actually go back and pull these small SMEs along by assisting them, putting the basic controls in place, limiting the access that they give, because if you do not need to expose yourself that big, make sure that then you're minimizing the threat landscape that you're exposing to yourself as an SME. So one of the tips, and I'll use Emma's example where he went to a pharmacy and they were taking this credit card data of his that they did not need to. Because the moment you take that data, then you are mandated to protect it, which comes at a cost. And some of these SMEs, if they're going to do the cost-benefit analysis, they might not have the financial muscle to put in the controls. So as an SME, as you collect this data, first of all, take a step back and say, do I need to have this data in my possession? If you do not need to have that data, then do not collect it, and that will lessen the efforts that you need to put around protecting such data. The other tip that I would give SMEs is that the basic hygiene can go a long way to save you the heavy costs. When you look at the Center of Internet Security has put in controls that organizations need to have, but they have also gone ahead to group them as foundational or basic controls and those that need financial muscle. So as an SME, start with the basics. Do you have the hygiene of your environment clean? Are you not installing things that you don't need to have on your environment? Because if you install them, you need to actually make sure that you're securing them. Keep it at the minimum. And the other key thing that actually doesn't come at a cost but saves us a lot is awareness. I know we are here to create awareness. And if you make sure that even your staff are aware, which comes not at a much cost like if you have to put a firewall in place, it goes a long way to save you as an SME. If your staff are aware on the password hygiene, if your staff are aware on even identifying the threats, because some people see things running on their computers and they can't tell why I haven't touched anything, but my mouse is running from Z to E. So if you can create that awareness within your organization, it goes a long way to create a cyber-safe environment for you as an SME. So summary of the tips: if you don't need to hold that data, don't hold it, because you'll not need to invest in protecting it. Have cyber awareness for your staff, and have the basic controls, patching, antivirus, as you start to build the financial muscle to put a bigger security controls in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Diana, for the tips. And what I see coming out strongly for most of us is also to take care of the supply chain. You may be a big company and you can afford all these measures, but how about your supply chain, your suppliers, your vendors? Can you lend a hand and can you help them? And then I also see what comes out. You can actually achieve a very good cybersecurity posture without spending a lot of money if you focus on those basics and on the cyber hygiene. I have a few questions from the audience. Please keep the questions coming in. But before we get to those questions, I'd like to go back to Mr. Badije. Let's talk about the cybersecurity frameworks, basic principles that you can share with us that organizations should implement or that you recommend they should be able to implement. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Just like we have the current pandemic, we are given a lot of material about SOPs and so on and so forth. With also cybersecurity, you have your SOPs, you have the best principles, or what you would like to call best practice. And those cut across. But the cybersecurity framework has, and this is from my experience, has you detect, protect, respond, and recover. Now, those are the underlying principles. But when it comes to the actual direction, awareness is key, and also attention to detail, because cybersecurity is a very agile, it's an evolving kind of space. You will invest in this technology today. Before you know it, you'll have to invest in the next technology. You'll have to do ABCD. Now, we all understand as experts the basics, but we need to do more than the basics. For example, you talk about firewalls in place, but firewalls in place are not enough. Firewalls do the main things we know they do. But how do you then enhance your firewalls? How do you layer them? How then do you segregate, for example, where do you have your web application firewalls, where do you have your intrusion detection platforms, and so on and so forth? So from experience, and what I have also noticed besides the principles we learn through the certifications, is that your infrastructure integrity must be up to date. The team must attend these days webinars. You must have exposure. You must also lobby or drive for investment in these technologies, because the loss versus the investment is wiser. So infrastructure integrity is important. Then you have the usual pen tests that are also important, and these give you views before the actual hackers or those who are trying to abuse the systems get in there. You have your recovery processes in case you are hit with a cyber attack or you have a vulnerability. It is not enough to say that you back up your data. Backing up is one thing and recovering it is another. You must understand things like your recovery point objectives, recovery time objectives. You must also test the recoveries, because I have seen scenarios with experience as well with cybersecurity attacks where as an institution you have been following your recovery processes, you've been backing up, and when an incident happens, you try to recover and things don't work. So you ask yourself, why were you doing all these expensive things in the first place? So these test runs are important. And also, I am glad to note that there are laws now in place, there are regulations in place now, like the previous colleagues mentioned in their presentation, that guide us within cybersecurity direction. The representative from the Ministry of ICT, the commissioner, talked about a security framework in place. I think this should be made known to various stakeholders and so on and so forth. So in summary, as also Emma mentioned, you have the various authentication protocols in place, the two-factor authentication and so on and so forth. You have your usual email procedures for stuff like that. So in summary, we have to go beyond what we know. We must keep driving such a kind of awareness campaigns, because I'd like to think as a country, we are still in the inception stages of cybersecurity. We're trying to get everyone on board, and I really appreciate the efforts that NITA-U is putting in place to drive this agenda, and I think we are more than willing as those on ground to partake and be participants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Cyrus. When you talk about backup and recovery, I always smile because that once happened to me in my practice, so I can totally identify with what you're saying. And then also, as you speak, it feels like cybersecurity is not a checklist, because if you're going to work on cybersecurity like a checklist, you're going to actually tire, you're going to tire, you're going to get tired. So we should look at cybersecurity as a culture, something that we do over and over again and practice and improve and make better over time. So thank you so much, Cyrus, for that. I'll skip over to Andrew. Andrew, this is a question from Immaculate. Truth be told, banks are facing a lot of cybercrime with their electronic products like internet banking. Furthermore, agency banking, which is directly in the UBA supervision, is causing losses to banks due to a number of hacks that happen oftenly. Why hasn't UBA come up with standards to tighten the security of these shared platforms? Where does their mandate start and end? Andrew, over to you. So the question of mandate comes up here again. Yes.
Thank you, Angela. The threats definitely are going to exist and accelerate, even become more sophisticated. But what I can say in response to that is, for the shared platforms, of course, the mandate is ours, UBA in general. But there is a general drive, especially with financial services, to adopt the digital solutions with the purpose of helping the customer easily access their funds at their convenience. What has not been happening to our liking is the digital strategy is not moving in line with the security strategy. So security is happening as more of an afterthought. Unfortunately, when the incident happens is when some institutions fall back and start to figure out what it is that didn't work from a security perspective, what should they have done better, which I think is unfortunate. But the frameworks do exist, and we encourage organizations, financial services organizations that are adopting this digital strategy to refer to it. We have put together a tool that can help an institution self-assess itself as they go digital. And I think it's a good reference point for any financial services organization that is taking that digital journey. They can also refer to the National Information Security Framework, as we have articulated previously on the panel. There are also international standards. I mean, if your customers are international, if you're competing with international competitors in the industry, you might as well adopt the international way of doing things, cyber. So there are ISO standards. The NIST framework does exist. I think these are quick reference points organizations can use to kind of firm up their cyber operations. And I think the question now becomes enforcement. You know, as UBA, our enforcement mandate is not as strong as we'd like. Of course, we have an overarching authority, the supervisory authority, Uganda, Bank of Uganda. I think the effort needs to happen at that level. They need to better enforce, and maybe even from NITA when it comes to data protection. I think the laws and regulations that exist now need to start biting, and maybe it will guide the institutions in the right direction. So thank you very much.
Thank you. If we have any questions from the audience, please do share those questions. I'll also share a comment from one of our participants, Sarah. She says that the amounts lost to agents is even outright theft or system failure where a transaction fails are on the systems. So she doubts that there's been many hacks on agent banking, but rather system failures, outright thefts, and things like that. I don't know, and if you have a comment on that, or we can just let it pass. Or Diana. Okay, so over to Diana. Diana, do you have anything to weigh in on cybersecurity in the banking sector? I know you also work in the banking sector. And then as you weigh in on that, you can also share with us on a grand scheme of things, what at an organizational level, what should the leadership be doing to ensure that their organizations are actually safe from cyber attacks? And this could be big companies, small companies. What should the leadership really think about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I think Andrew has covered a lot that banks or the banking industry needs to be doing in terms of ensuring better cyber posture in their organizations. But overall, organizations overall, I think one of the key things that needs to happen is having a voice at the board. And as we recruit board members at these organizations, now we need to create cybersecurity champions. Because like we are saying, cybersecurity can no longer be an afterthought, but it needs to be in the room and be discussed. Over the years, what has been happening is an organization has a cyber attack, and that's when they wake up to say, let's invest. And the investment is not out of being informed and having a buy-in on why they're investing, but it's out of the fear of this happening again, or the experience that they have had that they have lost money and they don't want it to happen. So then they'll throw a budget at the professionals and say, you know what, I'm giving you money and guarantee me that this is not going to happen again. And of course, I'll sit as a professional and I say, you know what, people are always cooking, and I can't guarantee you that this will not happen tomorrow. But as an organization, the focus is on how do I recover fast when it happens and ensure that there's minimal damage. So the call is to have a voice at the board and ensure that, like Andrew said, that the digital strategy is way ahead of the cyber strategy. And yet this should work in tandem or go side by side. And that's why we start talking about DevOps. DevSecOps. Don't have the developers develop because they want things out in the market, they are working at a faster speed, and then they want to add security at the top. When it's at the top, it's easy to remove. It's like having a bottle and you have a cover. It is easier to remove the cover, but if it's embedded, it takes a huge amount of effort to actually break the security that you have built. So the subject around security and where should and when should it be a concern is that it's at the very beginning. As you come up with your organizational strategy, does your organizational strategy align with your cyber strategy and align with your digital strategy? from the onset. I think that will go a long way to even save organizations the cost that comes after. Because many organizations are just concerned about return on investment, and it's up to us as cybersecurity professionals to not talk about vulnerabilities and threats, but rather, if I protected you from this vulnerability, I would have saved you this money, and that amounts to the return of investment you have by putting certain security controls in place. So for organizations, have the voice, let the senior management have a buy-in from the onset, and let all your strategies walk the journey together, not just as an afterthought when it comes to cybersecurity.
Thank you so much, Diana. Security by default or by design works perfectly well rather than an afterthought. That's a key takeaway for all of us today. So lastly, our dear panelists, I'll just do one round of questions from the audience. One is for Cyrus. How can privacy be achieved in a cloud computing environment?
Thank you, Angela. We all know with cloud computing you have regulatory challenges because that space is still, it's not been in place for a very long time. So privacy in that angle depends from region to region. But the good thing is that we now have a docket within NITA-U that is mandated to handle data privacy. We have the law in place. But on the internal side of things, minus the regulatory framework, minus the challenges of cloud computing, I think it comes down to enforcement of the rules you put in place internally. Yeah, that's what I could respond.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. I'll move over to Diana. Can an SME come to ISC Squared chapter for advisory?
Thank you, Angela. Like you said, that ISC Squared is an organization that brings information security leaders, and we create a community where we do share expertise, we share knowledge, and yes, advisory on how you can better your security posture. So yes, we are here to not serve the organizations that we work in as professionals, but to serve the wider community in terms of empowering each and every one of us to live in a cyber-safe environment. So as ISC Squared members, we are here to support anyone in terms of trying to better their journey of cybersecurity in their spaces. So be it a large organization, be it an SME, be it an individual, and I emphasize individual because if you use an example of email being one of the most common used attack surface, be it delivering malware or ransom, I believe every one of us owns, if it's not an organizational email, it's a personal email. And you need that. How do I protect it? How do I recover my email because it has your personal data in one or the other? So yes, as an organization, we're here to support and better the cybersecurity awareness, better the cybersecurity capability in the country as a whole. So yeah, they're welcome. And Angela, being our current president, I think she's even in a better place to really speak about ISC 2 Squared and what we stand for and what we want to do for the nation. Thank you.
But Dana, you're still in exams on this one. So I'll ask the admin to put in a contact email address for ISC2 if you would like advisory. Now, Andrew, over to you. I saved this for you because I'm getting a lot of comments about where the money is. So I have a comment that says the biggest hacks have been on mobile banking, which you actually said was true. And that the challenge with them is the chain of participants. So we go back to supply chain, either at the vendor, bank, or telecom. So there's a question related to that. And the question is, how do banks check fintech companies that integrate with them? So this ties in with the whole aspect of supply chain security and how that security is managed. Andrew, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I don't know who asked the question. The response to that, I can say, is there's a lot of pressure for banks and even the smaller financial institutions to go digital. There's also an excitement from the developer's perspective, to put together a fintech, to kind of address the problem. What you notice there is everything is happening pretty fast. Apps are being developed left, right, center. What is not happening is the proper testing. My advice to banks adopting these fintechs is when they present to you a solution, while it may work very well and maybe address your strategy, you need to first put a stop on things and do a proper test, try and ensure that the software or the solution they're giving you is actually airtight from back-end access, easily manipulated using SQL injections, and the different ways that a system can be broken. So outside the pressure that we all have as institutions to go digital, I think we need to slow down, and she was talking about DevOps, to try and break down that system, that application that we're onboarding, do some stress testing to ensure that if anything happens, at least the damage is lessened, or at least there's no intrusion, from the back end. So those two have to go hand in hand. While you are driving very vigorously to go digital, try and put together teams that have competence to test these systems before you onboard them. I think that will lessen our attack problems on the cyberspace. Yes.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the close of this panel, and I will ask each of my panelists to give us closing remarks, closing shots. And as we do that, any of you can weigh in on this question from Robert as you give your parting shots. One is, how do we differentiate deliberate denial of access to information from cybersecurity? I see Diana is tempted to give a lecture on that, but it will just be a brief kind of introduction. Then the fraud on mobile money is rampant since most banks have interconnected systems with mobile money systems. What have you done to solve the cybersecurity problem, most of it being social engineering techniques used to defraud users? So, my dear panelists, each of you can weigh in with your parting shots and throw in a nugget or two to respond to Robert's queries. So I'll start with you, Diana.
Thank you, Angela. My parting shots will be in form of a comment when it comes to cybersecurity. In the times that we are in, where we see people cutting budget, actually research shows that actually the spend on security will increase by 8.1% annually into 2024. What does that mean? That as organizations walk their digital transformation journey, they have to budget for security and make sure that it is something that they have considered so that they can avoid the aftermath, because it becomes actually more expensive if you have not taken cybersecurity as a priority from the onset. So my advice is that as you plan your 2022, you can even review your budget right now if you didn't put your concentration around cybersecurity and say, how have I planned to protect the digital channels that I want on board come in the next 2 or 3 years. In terms of the threats around mobile money, and like you outrightly said, it's around awareness, because someone calling you and saying, we have a problem, kindly let me know of your PIN so I can change it. To a layman, they think, oh, this is a person that is going to give me a new PIN and secure mobile money. but they need to first stop and ask why. And I think Be Safe Online is giving us those tips. Even us as organization, we have to ensure that we are sending out those tips so that our customers are aware. And we have specific lines that they can actually confirm that actually this information or this query is coming from the organization itself. So awareness will go a long way to save our users or our customers from cyber threats more than the technical controls that we actually put inside. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start from where she left off. I think what we don't discuss very much, especially with the integrators, when you talk about fraud happening between mobile money services and the banks, is we do not ask our integrators security-related questions. You know, recently I was reviewing a contract with one of our integrators, and I was asking questions. You know, which part of this contract talks about the expectations from a cybersecurity perspective? What controls do you have on your end? Can you readily present this information to us to give us some level of comfort? Can we do audits in your environment? You know, we try and get all these aspects and make them clauses in the contract, you know? So if we need to do, for example, an independent audit, how does that happen? When a fraud happens on your side, a breach, for example, how do we address that? I think these are questions that need to be asked or things to discuss when you're dealing with an integrator to avoid cyber-related issues when they do happen or lessen the problem. Parting short, I think it was Bernard who was talking about the skills gap. Again, part of awareness, but we cannot re-emphasize this more. It's very easy to get an affordable IT university student, you know, and put them in your IT department or security department. While it might make sense for you financially, what you don't realize, like she said, the cost, in case you're really exposed to a cyber threat, this person does not have the competence and experience to kind of save your organization from a very disastrous situation. So I think organizations need to look at the competence within the departments that are responsible for cyber security. You can also go out there and outsource. You know, it's not illegal. You can go find a competent firm that gives you comfort and work with them to put together a solid information security management system to help you in the future. So organizations should not go the cheap way when it comes to investing in cybersecurity profession. They need to invest heavily because the threat is really, it's really big. The cost of the attack might be organization ending. So they need to think about it seriously. So those will be my parting shots. Thank you.
Yes, my closing remarks are quite generic. Clearly, we must appreciate the fact that cybersecurity is an evolving space, an evolving sphere. And that means we must stay on top of technologies. We must benchmark. We must support NITA-U for bringing us together. We must have the same synergies across the board, because you are as strong as your weakest link. So we need to have a campaign out there that is onboarding as many stakeholders as we possibly can. We must also encourage professionalism in this field through certification, such that you have a universal standard and a level of acceptance. We also have to appreciate our governance frameworks, the policies, the acts, and those bits of enforcement. And also, we also have to talk about how regularly we engage and how we progress by saying, look, this was discussed, this is ticked off, and this is the level we are at. Because we can engage as often as we can, but we could be speaking about the same thing. So my parting shots is that we have progressive and gradual discussions across the board, the public and the private sector, and maybe also foreign stakeholders that can drive this agenda forward. But also, in a nutshell, I'd like to thank NITA-U for spearheading this wonderful, I think, platform, and I look forward to the next. Thank you.
Perfecto. Thank you so much, my dear panelists. It's been an awesome pleasure hosting you. And I believe that as attendees, we have learned a lot. So just a quick snippet for Robert. How do you differentiate access of information from cybersecurity? So in cybersecurity, you have three components. You have confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So if you do not have access to information, then you have missed the point. You don't have cybersecurity. So access to information is a very key component, a critical component. And we have been talking about the National Information Security Framework that NITA developed. If you'd like to use it as an organization, as an individual, please go over to the NITA website and you'll find it there as the National Information Security Policy stroke framework. You can use it, you can customize it to your organization, to your personal business, and it will be such a great help in ensuring that you safeguard your assets and your people. Thank you very much once again, ladies and gentlemen, and I hand over to the MC right now.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for our panel that has done an excellent, stellar job. As we prepare to land this plan, I just wanted to highlight some of the effects, how they happen. One of them that we've been talking about for the last 2 months and that we'll continue talking about is around social engineering, where someone follows you online. I'll give an example of a politician that was followed online. So every time you would go to launch something, you'll obviously post, I was here, I've launched ABCDF, and they'll go and say, next week I'm traveling to Dubai for a conference on ABCD, maybe for the World Expo, which happened, and the person travels. So obviously, one of the cases we looked at was when that happened, someone now reached out to the person's follower and saying, hey, as you know, I'm in Dubai, but one of my voters is sick. They need to go for surgery at the health center X. Urgently send 1 million to this number. I'm going to refund you when I come back. So someone, because they know the person is not around, the person has actually flown, and they will send the money. And you find that person has sent one message to all the person's followers, and that money is gone. So when the person comes back into the country, and finding dates that he never took, because someone was able. So be alert, some of the cases. The second thing I wanted to highlight, which was actually mentioned by the gentleman from Commissioner Counter Electronic Measures, is around companies. First of all, I want to communicate that a telecom company or a bank will never call you to ask for your mobile money PIN number. A bank will never call you asking for your password. They will never, ever. So when you get a call saying, I'm from MTN, we are upgrading to 5G network, I need to send me your mobile money PIN number, your last balance, your last transaction, so that I can validate. Otherwise, your SIM card is going to get switched off. So I find someone scared again and they are acting to that. But remember, anyone who asks you for your PIN number, asks you for a password, even if they are pretending to call from a telecom company, those are actually lies. Then the last one, please, after today or even right now, please activate two-factor authentication. It's very easy to do that for your social media. It will save you a lot of headache, a lot of downtime. So now that we are engaging our landing gear, I want to thank you all for your keen interest. The campaign continues online, and I hereby invite Director of Information Security, Mr. Arnold Mangeni, to come and lead us on the closing part. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Emma served in the Ministry of ICT, so him and protocol issues because he fears to invite Edie to give the closing remarks, but actually it should be the executive director to give the closing remarks. So I would add to Emmanuel's voice to thank everyone for actively participating in this conference. And I'm sure it's a success, but it's a campaign that we're going to continue through the year and other times to come because highlighted by the various speakers, the threat landscape keeps changing, so our messages needs to always be refreshed and repackaged in a way that's appropriate for the various consumers. So I now invite our executive director to give closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnold, for holding the awareness campaign, accessible awareness campaign. And I will just be brief, seeing that we are short of time. I would like to welcome all members to this awareness campaign and all those who are online on other channels. Thank you for joining the NITA team in spreading the message of cybersecurity. Cyber is always taken in, when someone mentions cyber, it's something that comes out with a negative sentiment. Cyber, it's scary. Now when you add it with security, security even makes it more scary. But I can assure you, we all are involved. We are all in it. Cyber is in everything. Whether you like it or not, you are in one way affected, and in one way you participate in the cyberspace. So this is a message to not only the techies. I know it's a heavy word, cybersecurity, but it goes out to everyone. Everyone who has any device that is electronic, that communicates through the cyberspace, and it's a growing field. It's a growing field. So at the National IT Authority, what we have done is we have drafted policies, a structure, the minimal standards that at least are required for you to transact, for you to operate, for you to be in this cyberspace safely, efficiently, effectively, and progressively. We have drafted them in form of the cyber laws. There's a Computer Misuse Act, the E-Transaction Act or regulation, the e-signature regulation, and of late we passed, or His Excellency passed, the Data Protection and Privacy Act and regulations. But also we support other regulations from other entities. We know the payment, the mobile money payment solution. There's a payment platform regulation that is in place and mandated by the central bank. But there's that component of electronic transactions. So we come in and certify the players in this field in their cyber readiness to take up these services. So this is not just for the IT fraternity, this is for everyone. But the financial sector and the private sector are moving at a very fast pace. So what we did at NITA, we also drafted the National Information Security Framework and policies that guide authorities, guide organizations, all the way from the board level, board management, the governance structure for you to operate efficiently, not just only in the financial sector, but all sectors. So that framework, the National Information Security Framework, as rightly stated, is available for all authorities to acquire and adopt, and we can come in and even provide and customize it to a specific need of the authority. And we are not looking just only at government. It is the whole of Uganda, government and private sector. We come in to build that strength in the cyber world. Lastly, my last comment is if If I talk to an IT head or someone in charge of IT, and first thing I ask, or most times when I ask them is, do you have any problems? If they tell me many problems, I say, okay, that is expected. If he says no problem, I know there's trouble. There is trouble. So whenever you hear silence, you just know, no, there's a big, big problem. So let's spread the word. Let's spread the word. Let's not feel shy to expose our weaknesses, because this is where we'll be able to patch up and fix those gaps. So thank you for coming, and thank you for supporting the awareness campaign. As Director said, it's not ending here. It doesn't end now. We will keep on spreading the message, but it's from the ambassadors like you, the leaders of authorities in the IT fraternity like you, who will spread that message further to the last person. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your active participation. We continue on the hashtag BeSafeOnlineUG. And please remember to visit the website, which is besafeonline.ug, just as it's here on the banners. I wish you all a fruitful day, and remember to keep safe, because we're still in the midst of the COVID pandemic. Good afternoon.
Want to become the kafulu of cybersecurity? You've come to the right place. Join us for the Cybersecurity Awareness e-conference on November 4th, 2021, and learn from the experts. Life was good for Daniela until her phone was stolen and it had no password. The thief had easy access to all her messages, emails, photos, social media accounts, and banking apps. Don't be like Daniela. Create a strong password known only by you to add an extra layer of security to your phone. This will keep your information and digital world safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Mary until she received a phone call from a lady asking her to share her mobile money PIN to ensure that her SIM card wasn't deactivated. Her mobile money PIN ended up in the wrong hands. Don't be like Mary. Never share your PIN or password with anyone. A bank or mobile money company will never ask you for your PIN or password. This message is brought to you by the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. Life was good for Michael until someone went phishing in the email connected to his bank account. A hacker masquerading as his bank tricked him into opening a malicious link that prompted him to share all his bank details. In less than an hour, his account balance was zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Don't be like Michael. Avoid phishing attacks by verifying the source of your emails and make sure any links you click are from a secure website. This will keep your money and personal details safe. This message is brought to you by the National Information